Happy Friday. Welcome in for a little Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. It is April 19th. We are now 5 days out from the 2024 NFL Draft. Lots of exciting things, including what's coming up in the next hour. This live stream is brought to you by our friends at Bmore Around Town, the premier tailgate company for road trips, whether it's Ravens or Orioles related in the Baltimore area. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside by Sarah Ellison. And before we dive into the rundown for today, partner, here we go. We're closing in on it. And if you are on the fence, we would love for you to decide as soon as possible so we can start getting counts, especially for the catering company who's going to be sponsoring our inaugural draft party event coming up on Thursday, April 25th. Clean Cuisine will be bringing dinner. And if you're on the fence, again, grab those tickets because we're trying to get as much information as we possibly can for the venue itself, for the catering company, and of course, for me and Sarah as well, putting on this event. So anyway, it's coming up next week. It's at Soundstage in downtown Baltimore. If you are local, if you are in the area, Sarah, I've heard some from the York, PA area that are thinking about making the trip down. It would be awesome to see you guys in person. We know where there's going to be a ton. We're hoping to hit that 10,000 number in terms of virtually, like we were flirting with that number the first day of free agency. We feel like we can get that across all of our digital platforms, but it would be awesome to see some of you in person as well, and can't wait to see you as well.
Yeah, don't wait till Thursday to decide. That's no bueno. We gotta make plans, get things in. So pull the trigger, as they say, this weekend.
Let's go. Ticketmaster has them right now available for you and yours. In the show notes below, there's a direct link. It would be awesome to see you guys out there. So in terms of what we have coming up today, you found a little nugget on the nightcap. Shannon Sharpe's one of the many things he does in this massive media world that he's living in and building. He told Russell Wilson that, quite frankly, he hopes the Ravens beat the brakes off the Steelers next week. Is that, or next year? Is that correct?
Yeah, he said twice from the Ravens and when they played the Broncos. They had some back and forth. So we'll get into that as we're actually going to look at the AFC North wide today. But that was the interesting thing when we get to the Steelers.
Because every single athletic beat reporter, Jeff Zaribek included for the Baltimore perspective, was tasked with coming up with one word to describe their respective team's offseason. So We'll get into that. We'll go team by team. We'll take a look at what's going on in the AFC North. Should be a lot of fun yet again in 2024, should everybody stay healthy. Joe Burrow and the Bengals obviously are going to be looking for revenge and a comeback tour. Some big news on Zay Flowers and a statement released by the NFL around 24 hours or so ago. It was definitely after our show yesterday, but we'll get into the specifics of that. J.K. Dobbins' first look as a Charger and much more. But we begin with Shannon Sharpe, right?
Well, let's back up. Let's use this. What we're going to do is we're going to look at the AFC North wide here. And I really enjoyed the AFC North whip around on The Athletic. I have a feeling it's obviously one of their bigger articles that gets a lot of traffic because it's fun to have these guys kind of go back and forth a little bit. So yeah, as you said, each guy got to use one adjective because we're about a week away. We're less than a week away for each team. So I won't go too deep. We know what the Ravens offseason has been. Jeff picked the perfect word for it, which is predictable. And if you don't like that it was predictable, maybe you would choose a different adjective, but it's normal kind of business for the Ravens to lose a bunch of their own guys, only pick up, maybe one kind of free agent splash, which this year was Derrick Henry. The rest are kind of depth pieces in free agency or special teams. And then they're going to rely on the draft and the depth to kind of take their step up, these guys that they've been developing. So that's just, I feel like, the perfect word, predictable for the Ravens. So don't really need to spend too much time there, right, Bobby?
No. But I think you're going to appreciate this next one, aren't you?
Yeah, this one I thought was interesting just because I haven't been on top of the injury situation in Cleveland, which, you think I would because Cleveland's like an hour and a half up the road for me, but I'm zoned in on the Ravens, obviously. So Zach Jackson of The Athletic, here's the word that he used for the Browns, which you don't wish anybody bad injury news, right? But you also like this word for your AFC North enemy, and that word is uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. That's because he says Deshaun Watson is rehabbing major shoulder surgery, and his target for a full return is more late summer than late spring. So, I mean, that's your starting quarterback. You want him in there as you're in training camp. Doesn't sound like, I mean, late summer. That to me is late August, right? Getting close to the season. So it could mean that they have a slow start, or they could get lucky. And even though Joe Flacco's not there, maybe they could go on another run. Meanwhile, though, Nick Chubb took a pay cut because he's coming off 2 knee surgeries, and there's no clear timetable for his return. So the Browns spent the offseason keeping their team together, and they have a roster that's talented and experienced, especially on that defensive side. And they added Jerry Jeudy, right?
Jerry Jeudy and Jameis Winston, who, if Deshaun's not ready to go, could be QB1 week 1. I mean, you never know. He's got a ton of starting experience under his belt, and I'm sure that was a reason. Now, I know some of you in the live chat, and I've seen others think about this as well, myself included. I was pretty surprised that they let Flacco walk based on how he played for them down the stretch. But I guess if you're looking at this as a multi-year project in terms of somebody that you can feel good about in the age category and just, I would say, maintenance-wise and attrition-wise, you're probably going to go with the younger Jameis Winston over a Flacco. I get that. But, man, Joe took you on a run. You wouldn't be anywhere near the playoffs without Joe's efforts.
Well, we kind of covered that part of the reason why, at least reportedly, according to ESPN beat writer, it was partially because because Joe is so popular, they didn't want to have this QB controversy among their fan base.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Speaking of uncomfortable, right?
They're like trying to minimize that uncomfortable kind of feeling over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, with 2 new wide receivers and your quarterback isn't due back till late summer. I mean, it takes time. We're talking about the chemistry over here between Bateman and Lamar, and they're going into year 4, you know? So, yeah, that's something. So,
and just to your point, Sarah, not to interject, but that Jerry Jeudy comment, that feels uncomfortable, because when you go ahead and pay a guy who's somewhat disgruntled in Denver, a very polarizing figure, somebody who has not yet hit, even though he's got all the potential in the world, has not yet hit the 1,000-yard receiving threshold in a single season, has had drops, has been a headache for an organization, and you bring him in via trade and then award him a 3-year contract extension, $41 million of which is guaranteed. Like, I can see why the word out in Cleveland is uncomfortable. Like, that feels uncomfortable to me.
Yeah. Well, and to add to it, Bobby, even though it's not written in this paragraph, because they talk about it later, they start talking about the draft, and they ask, each beat writer, what's going to be the hardest need in hole you need to fill through the draft. And Zach Jackson's like, well, with no pick until the back half of the second round and only 2 in the top 150, the Browns are going to have to let the draft come to them. They got 2 picks in the top 150, and they're not going till the back of the second round. So that's what they got going on over there in Cleveland. So we'll see. Meanwhile, and we're getting to the Steelers, and this is where we're bringing Shannon Sharpe a little bit. Let's see here. Switch my thing. Mark Cabley, or is it Cabley? How does he say his name?
We've never had him on the show. I don't know.
We've never had him on the show.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he used the adjective, which I think they're all using pretty good adjectives. He said unforeseen. He said if you had the Steelers adding both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, trading Kenny Pickett and Deontay Johnson, and signing Patrick Queen, he says, if you predicted that, you deserve a cookie. Bobby, by the way, I just finished a workout. I would love a cookie.
You want a cookie?
I feel like I burned 475 calories in that. Should I waste it on a cookie? I don't know. We'll see. These are things I'll have to think about after the show. All right.
Let us know. You let us know.
Yeah, I know this is like keeping everybody on the edge of their seats. I'll let you know on Monday what I did. Okay. He says the crazy thing about it all is the Steelers are sure to have at least one more unforeseen move, in their offseason with a glaring need at wide receiver. So stay tuned on that front. But the offseason story, remember, it was Mike Tomlin who had asked the 49ers GM at the owners meeting. He's like, so what's up? Is Ayuk on the block?
Yeah. And the betting odds, the betting favorite right now, if it's outside of San Francisco for Ayuk is actually Pittsburgh for what it's worth.
Yeah. Well, when you got the head coach asking about that. Anyway, so Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph are all out. Wilson, Fields, and Kyle Allen are in, with the new additions counting only $5.6 million against the cap. So, I mean, it has been a season of change, off-season of change for Pittsburgh. I didn't see any of it. I mean, I did not think it'd be Russell Wilson and Justin Fields at all.
No, no one did. That Deontay Johnson departure, by the way, I think would make some Ravens fans sleep better at night. He gave them fits at times throughout his years in Pittsburgh, and he's a dynamic talent heading to Carolina. But yeah, the quarterback position, complete upheaval. And now the question becomes, because they have such little, what's the right word, investment really in Russell Wilson because of how much Denver's on the hook for in terms of his 2024 salary. If there's a legitimate quarterback competition this summer, which we don't know if that's the case, it sure looks like they have said, right? They have said there's a competition, but I think there's an understanding out there that this is Russell's job to lose as the vet.
Mm-hmm.
But if something goes down in training camp and Justin emerges as the guy week in and week out, you're really not going to start him, right? Like
right.
You're really not going to start the young, tremendous upside, dual threat quarterback and roll with the aging. Granted, it hasn't exactly been all his fault in Denver. He took a lot of it, as most quarterbacks do, as the front-facing people of their organizations. But there was a lot more to the problem in Denver than just Russell Wilson. And so if there's a competition in training camp to watch throughout the league, try naming one more compelling than that one.
Yeah, that one's going to be a blast for them for sure.
Yeah,
or I mean, blast. I don't know. Just sometimes
not for them.
It's not for them. For us over here a little bit. Well, yeah. To your point, if you get a glimpse of the Russell Wilson from Seattle, then yeah, I could see him beating out Justin Fields.
Or even flashes of last year. Like he played a lot better in year 2 in Denver than he did with Nathaniel Hackett the year prior.
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't write this guy off. That's the last thing any of us should do now that he's a Pittsburgh Steeler, because he's got a chip on his shoulder. He thinks he's still got a lot left in the tank. There were flashes last year. Just look at the statistics, go back and watch the games. Like he was not what the narrative on Russell Wilson was, whether it was on social media or whatever, from a season ago. I think he's got more left in the tank, but it'll all depend on who outperforms one another in training camp.
Absolutely. So that kind of brings us to Shannon Sharpe. So let me give a little context to this soundbite I'm about to do from Nightcap. So a little while back, feels like it's been within a week, Russell Wilson gave an interview, and he had said that he felt like he had opened the door for black quarterbacks. And Shannon Sharpe, a couple episodes ago, took some exception to that, because he felt like, well, hold on now. He's like, why don't you acknowledge that you're standing on the shoulders of many black quarterbacks that came before you? And he obviously brings up Doug Williams, first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. There's other black quarterbacks that, went to the Super Bowl. There's Steve McNair, Donovan McNabb. I mean, just lots of guys. And so Shannon Sharpe was like, they opened the door. Now he's like, of course, like you kept holding the door open, for the next generation, but he wanted to see Russell Wilson, give more love to the guys that kind of paved the way for Russell himself. Russell had heard that. He kind of came back and tweeted about it. And he said, oh, I definitely acknowledge that, and pulled up the story. And anyway, there was some back and forth. So Shannon does kind of a final episode on it where he's like, okay, I got you. You have the right to kind of push back on what I said. He's like, but I still kind of stand by it, because in the article, it was the author that gave homage to the guys that paved the way for you. It wasn't necessarily your quotes, But he was like, but you know what? He's like, I've got no hard feelings, says Shannon Sharpe, and I wish you the best. But he's got some caveats to that of wishing him the best. So here we go. That's kind of the background to this soundbite.
I Nightcap wish Russ the best. Hopefully he gets back to being the Russell Wilson that we knew we loved when he was in Seattle. Mm-hmm. I think Russ has good football left in him. And I wish him the best in Pittsburgh.
Great football.
Except when they play the Ravens and if they play the Broncos. And it's not that we're rooting against, we are. We're rooting against you, Russ. We don't want you to play Wagger. I ain't been here saying tell you that lie. Well, I hope Russ have a good game as long as the Steelers lose. No, I don't. No. No, I don't. Because if he have a good game, that greatly goes to helping the Steelers win that game. And I don't want that. I want the Ravens to beat the brakes off them twice. And if they play the Broncos, I want the Broncos to win. It didn't work out in Denver, but hopefully it works out 3 times better than what it did in Denver and Pittsburgh. Because Steelers was my favorite team when I was growing up. Unfortunately, that had to change once I got drafted. They were no longer my favorite team. And playing in that division with the Ravens, we hated the Steelers, and we still do.
And we still do. Now, listen, we've had I've been blocked by Shannon Sharpe, as we've talked about before, and we've had our disagreements, especially on some of the things he says about Lamar. But it is fun to see that he's still just, a Ravens fan and Broncos. He's won Super Bowls with both teams. Broncos fan at heart. So he's like, we wish you the best. And it's not like we're rooting against you. Well, yes, we are. We're rooting against you because we hope the Ravens beat the brakes off of you, Russ. just kind of a fun back and forth there.
Some things never change. Those two are hilarious together, by the way. We've mentioned that before. But Ocho and Unk in the same room or in the same live video is hysterical. Let's get on to the Cincinnati one word. This comes from Paul Daner Jr. Again, all of these reporters that we've been sharing for you around the AFC North are all at the Athletic, counterparts of Jeff Zrebeck. So Cincinnati's is steady. After a few years full of flash and headlines, this offseason involved a steady hand of calculated but not spectacular moves. There was no freak out from the disappointment of 2023. Not that you would expect one from arguably the most patient front office in the NFL. They continued executing the plan of avoiding liabilities up front, Trent Brown, paying what they had to for more interior disruption, Sheldon Rankins, fixing the problem of explosive plays, familiar face, Geno Stone, Von Bell, and staying young, DJ Reader, Awuzie is his last name. How do you pronounce his first name? Chidobe?
Do you know who you're asking?
Awuzie. I should know this because they're in the division. But Tyler Boyd, all gone. So Reader, Awuzie, and Boyd, all gone. Mm-hmm. A lot happened, but nothing crazy. Even the T. Higgins franchise tag trade request has felt ho-hum, as Higgins himself is resigned to the fact he'll probably be back playing on the tag in 2024, and we have some sound to go along with this as well, right?
Yeah, but it is I like steady was the word for them, and I think what they're just kind of like banking on is like Joe Burrow being healthy again.
Yeah,
right, because they feel like they generally have the pieces, and as he outlined, that where they didn't, they try to plug those holes. We never covered the fact that T. Higgins recently did say that he's like resigned to playing on the tag in 2024, which is good for them for this year. I don't think he's going to be there beyond 2024 because teams you can't, and with how expensive wide receivers are, you can't pay 2 number ones. And Higgins, he may not be Chase, but he can be a number 1.
No doubt.
And there still might be a thing where he could be traded, but I just feel like with how deep this wide receiver class is said to be, I just don't know why a team would want to give up draft capital to for sure get T. Higgins and then have to pay him. I mean, he might go for, he could be the highest paid for like a day, and even if it's just for a day, it's still, I mean, he's going to be paid top of the market.
Yeah.
So I'm resigned to the fact that he'll still be there and will still be a thorn in the Ravens side. So here's what's interesting. So not only did T. Higgins recently say that, but Joe Burrow had said recently on the New Heights podcast, he was talking about the Chiefs, and the main quote that kind of came out of that was, "We, the Bengals, are kind of built to beat them, the Chiefs." And while I was on the Nightcap podcast, literally right after they talked about Russell Wilson, they went right into this. And I was like, all right, well, I'll stick around for more AFC North opinions. So, of course, Chad Ochocinco, former Bengal, thinks that Joe Burrow is correct.
Mm-hmm. They are. I mean, what he said is factual. I think when it comes to the quarterback play, obviously when it comes to the quarterback play, the accolades, people will always put Mahomes ahead of him because of the Super Bowls and the playoff wins. But we are 3-1 against them. From a team perspective, offensively, we are built to beat them. If we get a healthy Joe Burrow this year, it's going to get scary. Come playoff time, we already know what's going to happen in the regular season. What we do need to fix in Cincinnati is we need to fix the slow start. We have a problem having a slow start and then picking up as the season goes. If we can get a jump on the competition and come out the gate, if we can come out the gate hot, and then after goddamn Thanksgiving, and just go on cruise control and just play good football, I think we're gonna be good. I just don't like the fact that we start so slow. We'll start 0-2, we'll start 0-3, and got to crawl and fight our way back into contention.
So y'all beat.
If we get a healthy Joe Burrow, you already know what's going to happen. That AFC North is a wrap.
It's that
you already know what's going to happen.
If we get a healthy Joe Burrow in the AFC North, it's a wrap. So I guess I want your reaction on both. Like, if Joe Burrow is healthy, you think it's a wrap? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying it could be. I think there's a very there's a ton of similarities between the Ravens and Bengals in terms of when they're fully healthy, the way they stack up against one another, the way they stack up in the division, the way they stack up in the entire conference.
See, but here's the thing, Bobby. Okay, you're right. You're right in that there's no doubt that with Joe Burrow injured, it's going to make a massive impact on their team win or lose. Same thing with Lamar Jackson. Here's where I feel like it's like a little bit disrespectful to the Ravens. What would be correct if he said if Joe Burrow's healthy and Lamar Jackson is not, then it's a wrap. Or if the Ravens said if Lamar Jackson's healthy and Joe Burrow's not healthy, then it's a wrap. But when is the last time we've had both Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson healthy?
It's been a minute.
I'm looking it up.
It's been a minute. Last year it was Joe. The year prior it was Lamar. The year prior it was Lamar. And then the year prior
it was Joe.
It was Joe.
So it's been like 4 years.
And they've only been in the league. You know, Lamar came in 18. What was Joe? Was he 20? Joe was.
He might have been 21.
Was it 20? Joe
was
either
Lamar that was young at 20, and I felt like Joe Burrow was like a year older.
Let's just take a look on the fly. What year did Joe come into the league? Let's see. 2020. Yeah. So Lamar had him by a couple seasons. But I totally agree with you. I totally
agree. You can't say like is it sure if Joe Burrow is healthy and Lamar Jackson's healthy, could the Bengals still win the division? Sure. But is it a wrap? No.
Flip a coin if they're both healthy. That's what I'm saying.
Right. That's why I say, no, that statement's incomplete. It can't be Joe Burrow's healthy and nothing else matters. Like, I want to see these guys go head to head. So
I think anybody who's a Bengals fan, and what I meant by it could be is anybody who's a Bengals fan, anybody who's a Ravens fan can say that about each other's team if both quarterbacks are healthy. They can really believe that in their heart of hearts. Now, you and I are looking at it objectively, and we both know that it's a coin flip.
I don't think so. I mean, listen, you're going to get a fan here or there, but I don't think you're going to get a former Raven that says Doesn't matter if Joe Burrow's healthy. If Lamar Jackson's healthy, it's a wrap in the AFC North. Like you might get a fan to do that, but I don't like.
Wouldn't think so.
I think that's too. I think that's too disrespectful to the competition.
Well, I think it's
and
just,
quite
again,
frankly, the Browns were like on the Ravens' heels the whole year, and luckily the Ravens had such a good season. They just kept staying ahead. So no, I don't think so. I don't think
just
so.
think
Anyway,
it's fandom. It's like, it's classic Ocho Cinco fandom. Like he's blindsided by his Bengals.
yeah. And I do wonder if he had pushback, like if I were there and like pushed back that way and said, wait a minute, it's a wrap if Lamar Jackson's healthy too. Because he does have love for Lamar. So maybe he wasn't thinking that one all the way through. Yeah. Well, okay, so that's that statement. Now, in terms of we are kind of built to beat the Chiefs. As Ocho Cinco pointed out, in Joe Burrow's career, they're 3-1 against the Chiefs, including the playoffs. Now, however, they couldn't get over the Chiefs when it mattered most, same as the Ravens, which was in the playoffs. So Joe Burrow did not move on to the Super Bowl. So I actually don't think that's crazy to say that they're built to beat the Chiefs. Like I do think that they can go toe-to-toe if you wanted to go in a high-scoring game. And I don't know. I mean, the Bengals defense isn't the worst, but I don't think that I think the Chiefs defense, especially last year, was better. Meanwhile, though, so if they're built to beat the Chiefs, the question is, though, are you built, as Ocho Cinco's kind of insinuating, to beat the AFC North? Because Lamar Jackson, these graphics are from StatMuse. Lamar Jackson technically is 8-2 against the Bengals, but as a starter, he's 8-1 because there was that 2018 year where he wasn't a starter.
Yeah, a lot of those games were without Burrow, though.
Yeah.
Because Joe missed an entire season, pretty much an entire season with the ACL, and then Lamar came into the league. Okay, it's not going to be 2 years before Joe because, like what you just said, him coming in late in his rookie season. So a lot of that was without Burrow. A handful of those games were without Joe.
Yeah, because we just said that it's been a while. It's been a minute since they've been healthy together.
Right.
But point being, if you're, you have to, at least the way the Ravens approach it, which I think is the correct approach, is you have to be ready to win your division first. And of course, they can. They certainly can. They're probably, if Joe Burrow is healthy, they're probably the biggest threat in the AFC North. Mm-hmm. Although you can't count out anybody else.
Oh yeah.
And so this is a black and blue division, bruises all the way through. And so I just think that it's like, okay, well, you can maybe beat the Chiefs, but who's gonna survive this division to get to the Chiefs? That's the question.
It's hard to imagine all four if all four teams stay healthy. It's hard to imagine a scenario,
which is not going to happen because of how we play each other.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. But let's just say in some weird world that all four end up being healthy. It's hard not to think that whatever the fourth team is ranking wise isn't going to be around 500. That's how competitive this division is going to be.
Yeah.
Like every single team is going to make it so difficult for one another.
As insane as this division was last year, the Steelers didn't have a legit quarterback. Now we don't know if they do this year, although it seems like I feel better. If I were a Steelers fan, I'd feel better about having Wilson and/or Fields than I did about Kenny Pickett. And those talk about winning ugly. We talked about this the other time, like whatever episode it was. Like you can't overlook. There's not a team in this division that it's like, oh, we got two against them.
No,
like you'd be happy if you could split like all of them.
Yeah, they used to, like pre-Burrow used to be Cincinnati. You'd look at Cincinnati like that.
Yeah, and we looked at Cleveland like that for years.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So before we continue the conversation, that was all over the place.
That was fun though.
That was good.
AFC North whip around we borrowed from The Athletic.
Yeah, you can find that entire column at theathletic.com, where all of Jeff's work is as well, which is elite, as we all know, for those of us who follow him. And maybe we'll have to get him, maybe we'll have to see what he's up to draft night. We're still putting together our
No, he's
entire
busy.
rundown. What's that?
I said, he's busy draft night.
Yeah, for sure. I think did he come on for us a few? Man, so much has transpired since last year's draft. And you and I had like 20 guests on throughout a 4-hour show last year. Remember that? I know you
remember all right.
remember.
Hard to forget that night. Bobby
knew
calls
you
me
were
up.
gonna
Hey,
say
what if we do a 4-hour show? I'm like, what?
I know. You're looking at me like, you sure you want to do that?
And then we did it.
All right. Be More Around Town is sponsoring this episode, and they are Baltimore's premier tailgate and road trip company. That's where I did all my home tailgate pregame shows for Ravens games last year, and Brian Snyder and his crew do a fantastic job. And right now, while the dates aren't out yet for all the road trips coming up next season, because the schedule release hasn't taken place yet. I think that's usually like mid to late May. Of course, we'll have a show that night. While those dates aren't out, the deposits that you can put down on those trips are the options of putting down deposits. So you can go to the Meadowlands when the Ravens travel to the Giants. Of course, they travel to Pittsburgh. They'll travel to Kansas City. That'll probably be a primetime game
out there.
for
Woo.
sure. That'll definitely be, you'd have to think at Arrowhead, that'll be a primetime game, a rematch of the AFC Championship. They'll travel to Houston. They'll travel, of course, to visit their Western population.
A nice one.
the Western organization,
Yeah.
the LA Chargers.
The LA Ravens.
The West Coast Ravens. Yeah, that'll be
a family reunion out there.
Right? I'm sure this will be a popular one at Tampa Bay, of course, with the sunshine, at Cincy, at Dallas if you want to go to Jerry's World, and of course at Cleveland. So all of this is available right now. You can throw down deposits at BeMoreAroundTown.com, having actually traveled with them before. And
I was going to ask you, if you go on a trip like with Be More Around Town, because it sounds amazing when other people take care of the hotel and all that kind of stuff. So what all is taken care of?
Well, let's just give you a little glimpse. I mean, we'll go into O's at Nats. It's just a trip down to DC, so maybe this isn't the best example. But look at this. They got an all-inclusive package for $109. That's motor coach transportation travel, right? You've got all kinds of different drink and snack options, game tickets, T-shirts. I mean, so again, this is just to DC, so that's about as basic as it gets.
One than that, yeah.
Like, okay, what about Miami?
Yeah, let's see Miami.
Play the Marlins.
Let's see Miami.
Look at this, like nonstop airfare travel, 3 nights, Tuesday through Friday, or 4 nights, Tuesday through Saturday. Airport transfers to and from the hotel, hotel accommodations in Fort Lauderdale, game tickets, koozies, drinks, pregame events. Like,
so your food, your transportation, your tickets, all taken care of.
Yeah, and matter of fact, cap season just ended, regular season wise. So they do hockey. So anyway, to answer your question, I had a tremendous time with them in London.
Yeah.
And I was out there for what felt like, I think it was like a full week. And everything was taken care of, right? All you're doing is you're putting down a deposit and the rest is just handed to you via email. It's color coded. Everything's good to go. Awesome. I saw so many different families doing the trip together. So they do a fantastic job. BeMoreAroundTown.com. A special thanks to Brian and his team.
I need to get on that.
Right? Yeah. For sure. Oh, and look at this. Denise and I met at one of the tailgate parties.
Oh.
So there you have it.
Very nice.
Yeah. The people who met me in London too.
Now.
We had some good times in London for sure. I was dancing at pregame parties. I mean, it was.
Oh, I'm sure you were.
Yeah. That was fun. So.
All right.
Anyway, BeMoreAroundTown.com. Go check them out. They got all kinds of different.
What are you doing over there?
I'm looking at my timeline to make sure I'm not missing anything. Nope, it's Lamar having fun on Instagram. Okay. Off we go to Zay Flowers.
Yeah.
And the last time we mentioned this on the show, at least in detail and covered it extensively, was when Baltimore County Police closed the investigation into the domestic violence complaint that they received on Zay, and they closed the investigation without charges. That was back in February. Now, what was notable about that day, though, was Jeff Zaribek's tweet. which was from an NFL spokesperson, which said, quote, despite all of that, the NFL at the time was still monitoring all developments in the matter, which
Mhm.
remains under review, which is why you and I would always, and I was kind of always bringing it up, I guess, here and there when we talked about the wide receiver position or draft strategy or whatever. I kept saying, hey, the NFL is still looking at this, meaning he's not out of the woods yet from a football perspective. He was in Baltimore County Police's eyes, but not yet from the NFL. That changed yesterday. NFL statement was given to several of the beat reporters in Baltimore, and I have, Jeff's transcripts here of what they wrote. Quote, following a review, the NFL concluded there was insufficient evidence to support a finding that Zay Flowers engaged in any activity that violated the NFL's personal conduct policy. There will be no action taken by the league. Flowers remains eligible to participate in all team activities. And again, this was a statement related to the investigation back in January on an alleged domestic incident with Zay Flowers. So what does this mean? Big picture, Sarah? You kind of heard it there, but just to confirm, this does mean that now, from a football perspective, he is out of the woods and will not be facing a suspension to kick off this season, which is obviously big news for all parties.
It's massive news. I think first and foremost, this is probably a big sigh of relief for Zay Flowers, because as we know, which we covered, as you said, we covered it the last time we covered this was when it was announced that the police was closing it. They didn't see anything, and then we were saying that the NFL was still going to look into it. And at the time, people were like, "Well, why?" And the whole idea is that the legal system's standard might be different from the NFL standard. Standards, I should say, because there's like a standards of proof that you need. There's standards of like what's illegal versus what the NFL wants representing them, and they could be two different things. And so the NFL, in theory, has like a higher standard of, just because it's not illegal doesn't mean it's okay for our league,
Right.
And so can you go back to the statement that said, can you go at one slide? Here we go. Insufficient evidence support a finding that Zay Flowers engaged in any activity
Right.
that violated the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Strong words.
So, yeah, those are pretty strong words. So, none of us were there. None of us know what happened. When you read the original report, your heart went out, to all parties involved. And so we said back then that, Zay deserved like his due process before, we rushed to judgment. You can always have your heart go out to everybody that's involved.
Right.
So my heart does go out, but it goes out without any knowledge of what happened.
For sure.
And so for Zay, I'm sure this is just a massive sigh of relief, and he can move forward, and the Ravens can move forward, as it said, in all team activities. We've already seen him. He showed up the first day of the offseason workout program, and he showed up skipping,
Yeah.
and as happy as he's always been. And
he knew.
So he seemed to know, or just was happy about football, or both.
Yeah.
And so, good for him. Good for him that he can kind of move forward and can focus back on football.
And just to reiterate too, kind of what you're getting at, like we really do hope that you just hope and pray that all parties and the well-beings of those parties are intact.
Yep.
And that this can be now in the rearview mirror and everybody's healthy, happy, and ready to move forward. Speaking of moving forward, that's exactly what J.K. Dobbins officially did just yesterday when he signed with the LA Chargers on a 1-year deal. And Sarah, not only did he sign, and of course, look, when you're talking about the Chargers social media team, they ain't going away.
They're so
all right. They aren't going away. There's going to be a lot of it's funny that they're going to, all these former Ravens are going to a team in which the social department is the elite of elite, because we're going to be seeing them go viral probably pretty often, especially during football season. Now, I got a big kick out of this. JK put up sideline video of him taking a carry to the house against the Bengals.
To the house.
And it just showed off everything that we all grew to love about him. right? The vision, the cutting, the explosiveness, the fierceness in which he ran, right? The way like his elbow, like the guy is a workhorse, and when healthy, one of the most talented running backs in all of the NFL. He's guaranteeing, essentially, with this tweet, Sarah, that, and I'll read it for the audio only audience. With that tweet attached to the video, he says, "You're getting this, JK, Bolt fam." That's the Chargers fan base. I promise. Hashtag Bolt up.
I promise.
Sarah, he's almost guaranteeing that he's going to regain form. And you hope that he does for his sake, maybe just not whenever that regular season game is for the Ravens, huh?
That's the mindset he has to have. When you've been beat down in your career as much as he has, the only way to transcend the bad things that happen to you, because we're all bigger than the bad things that happen to us. We're all bigger than the adversity. We can't let adversity be bigger than us. And that's the mindset you have to have. You gotta put that out there and be like, not only do I mean it, but I'm going to say it with my chest. No. You know, I'm not just going to think it in my mind. I'm going to say it in my chest because it's going to hold myself accountable. And so that's the mindset he has to have. Now, clearly by the fact that he didn't get re-signed until, this week, that teams were a little bit, especially in a year where the running back market was actually flying and was actually heating up, which hasn't happened in years. There's probably some teams that are incredulous. And, it's understandable given the beating his legs have taken. But man, does he have the right mindset? And also, Bobby, when you pulled this slide up and we put that picture of him signing with the Chargers, that smile, and by the way, the thumbs up, the Kevin Zeitler, thumbs up, and to see his smile, it makes me smile because unfortunately, the image that is seared in my brain from his time in Baltimore was that one where his eyes are red and glossed over while he's on the cart in Washington, D.C. in the preseason game. And he just is like gazing into like space, realizing what just happened to him. Yep. And that's kind of the image that almost represents his entire career here, because as much as he kept working back, as much as you said, like just a workhorse, as much as he put in all that time, it's like every time he got up, he just kept getting knocked back down. And so to see him happy again and to see him rise up and overcome that and find another team, and just now he's got an opportunity. He's got Gus there. Who else is there? Is it basically him and Gus? Are they 1 and 2?
I want to say, yeah. I haven't even looked outside of that because the whole story's been about. Let's see what they got at running back.
Well, as you look it up, like, I'm just so happy he has this opportunity. And he's one of those people that, like, I legitimately, like, you always wish former Ravens well. It's not always within their power to come back. You always wish him well. But he's one that I will for real be rooting for.
Absolutely.
I just want his career to get back on track. I want him to get paid. I just hate to see, missed opportunities. Meanwhile,
I got 2 other players in the stable, by the way. I got
but are they
Isaiah Spiller and Elijah Dotson?
Okay. Well, meanwhile, Jonas Schaefer kind of quote retweeted JK's tweet that he said that he promised them that they'd be getting that kind of Dobbins. So Jonas put up the numbers, put J.K. Dobbins in the 20 games he played with Lamar Jackson, 6.1 yards per carry, 0.19 EPA per carry, which is the league average since 2020. Just a joy to watch, Jonas says, even when he wasn't 100% healthy. One of the biggest what could have beens in recent Ravens history.
Yeah.
So true.
For sure. It's hard not to attach that type of phrase to him. What could have been.
What could have been.
But he's going to get another shot. So you hope
he's getting another shot.
You hope he takes advantage of it, because, man, those flashes of brilliance that we saw, especially his rookie year. Think about what he did his rookie year. Oh, by the way, this is off script right now, but it just came in. Brandon Ayuk's latest Instagram post has a caption. Let's see. I just want to make sure this is real. Yeah, it is. It is.
You can't.
It
You don't
is.
want to. You can't get got.
It is. And so this was. So it's an Instagram story, and it looks like he's FaceTiming somebody. I don't know who he's FaceTiming. But the caption says, "Brother said we got 6 days, and it's fireworks." Perhaps inferring that something's happening around the draft related to Brandon Ayuk's status. So, what fireworks that is remains to be seen. But that just came down the timeline as we were live here.
Yes.
So,
yeah, draft is, I don't know.
May mean something, may mean absolutely nothing at all. But 29 minutes ago, I just went to his actual Instagram story to,
So he
to
said
make sure it
6.
was.
Read the caption again.
So if you go to his Instagram story, he's got 4 of them up. Some of them are, the first 3 are him working out, but the 4th slide is a screenshot of a FaceTime. He's FaceTiming somebody. And the caption is, "Brother said we got 6 days and it's fireworks." Now we're 5 days out from the draft. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Well, I guess technically, depending on how you count, it could be 6 days.
My least my least favorite thing is trying to decode players in this era and their cryptic social media tweets where you're like,
oh wait, it's Jaden Daniels in the screenshot.
Okay.
Oh, that might change some things.
Okay.
I didn't know that was Jay, because he doesn't tag anybody, and I could barely tell that's Jaden Daniels. If that's the case, then this is probably a nothing burger because Jaden's expected to go, 2nd or 3rd overall or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Anyway,
All right. Okay. All right. Let's move on.
Everything
last
with
quick
Ayuk,
favorite thing.
man, everything with Ayuk is like overblown, isn't it? Recently, you got his agent clapping back at people.
It's exactly
on
what
Twitter.
happened last year with Lamar because whenever there's a contract, an unsettled contract situation, everything is like high alert.
That's
what does that
funny.
mean?
That is funny. His agent boy has put down a couple of those like blogger, what do we call them again? What do we call Dav again on aggregators?
Oh, yeah.
Like
yeah,
aggregators a little bit. That he's buried a couple of those guys who have come forth with like reports that, the trade request or, that he's looking at certain teams like Pittsburgh or, something like that. So there's been a lot of noise about Brandon Ayuk with the ongoing contract negotiations between him and the San Francisco 49ers. We'll finish with this. And of course, the Stephen and Renee Bisciotti Foundation, of course, Steve Bisciotti, Ravens owner, and his wife Renee continue to just be incredibly philanthropic in the Baltimore area. So in partnership with their foundation, M&T Bank and College Track are all launching the Baltimore Ravens College Track Center. Bisciotti Foundation and the Ravens are going to donate $10 million to that. The M&T Charitable Foundation will donate $10 million to support students from underserved communities who seek to become the first in their families to earn a bachelor's degree. So more life-changing stuff here from the Bisciotti family, and you got to see that firsthand over your years there with the team.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. It's funny because sometimes when you see donations like this, most people are like, "Hey, good on you, good job." There's always a few people that's like, that's nice, but couldn't you given more? This is like let's say like the NFL is $1 billion organization, yada yada yada, and I get that sentiment. And at the same time, though, what they're doing is they'll like cherry pick a single donation. And be like, oh, that's all you could give. And it's like, wait, but do you understand that they are donating to many, many, many causes? So you have to look at all the charitable donations. Wasn't it like 2 or 3 weeks ago that they gave $5 million and matched the Orioles that gave $5 million to the Baltimore Bridge, construction.
Bridge.
And so this is another $10 million. And I promise you there's millions and millions more that they donate and put into charity that we don't even hear about.
It's exceptional stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, that You're right. Just a couple weeks ago, them and the Orioles did a joint donation together for the Key Bridge.
Yeah, the
and,
Key Bridge.
and everything that took place. It's continuing to take place in terms of the recovery effort since. So, one more time, we are closing in on our inaugural Marathon Draft Party live stream event at Soundstage. If you are on the fence about potentially coming out, just know we need to know as soon as possible how many of you are going to come out there so we can communicate with the venue and we can communicate with the catering folks at Clean Cuisine just so that they know how much food, for example, to supply for those of you who plan on coming out to Soundstage. So Sarah's flying in from Columbus for this event. It's Thursday, April 25th to celebrate opening night of the draft. And we know, look, we get it. Like the Ravens are going to pick late, but we're going to have entertainment throughout the evening lined up for you. We're going to have Ravens legends who you can mingle with. We're going to have dinner for you. There's going to be a cash bar. There's going to be memorabilia giveaways. I'm even hearing some of which will be Kyle Hamilton signed memorabilia. So there's going to be a lot going on over the course of the evening, and it all starts at 7 o'clock. We hope to see you. We're thrilled to have you out, and partner, can't wait to see you in person again.
It'll be a blast. Absolute blast. And I'm so hungry right now. I'm ready for lean cuisine right now. I'm going to go eat right after this.
We all are. Yeah, we probably all are. Although maybe some people are having lunch during this during their break right now. But tickets are available right now via Ticketmaster. The link is in the show notes below. You guys are the best for supporting us, and we hope to see you out there on Thursday night. So for Sarah Ellison and our sponsor, Be More Around Town, I'm Bobby Trossett, dropping off from this one as I limp to the finish line here. Partner, we got a meeting at 1:30. Lots to do right now. Got to edit this for the audio-only audience. If you haven't already done so.
You edit. I'm going to go eat. We'll see you at 1:30.
That's exactly what we're doing. Like this video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to The Vault on YouTube if you haven't already done so. And check us out in audio-only form as well, wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you guys on Monday, if not.